With the truth now out in the open, one question hangs over the nation like a thundercloud. What happens next? Karoline Leavitt's explosive exposure of General Mark Milley's secret memo hasn't just sparked a political firestorm. It's triggered a full-blown constitutional crisis. The implications are staggering. The emotions are raw. And the stakes? Nothing less than the survival of civilian control over the military. But this isn't over. Karoline isn't just dropping truth bombs and walking away. She's laying out a roadmap for accountability, and she's demanding the American people stand with her to finish what she started. Step 1, congressional investigation, or cover-up. Karoline is calling on Congress to act immediately. In her latest statement, she made it crystal clear. If Congress doesn't investigate this memo, then every single member is complicit in letting our military operate above the law. Several Republicans in the House have already echoed her call, pushing for a full, open congressional investigation into Milley's actions, the communications involved, and whether other top officials were aware or even complicit. What Karoline and her allies are demanding: transcripts of all Milley's communications with foreign governments, testimony under oath from Milley and key Pentagon officials, immediate declassification of the internal memo, a review of any violations of the Uniform Code of Military Justice, UCMJ, a legal review to determine if Milley should face court-martial or be stripped of military honors. But here's the catch. The Biden administration is silent. Not a single high-ranking official has addressed the memo directly. No confirmation, no denial, no action. Karoline says that silence is strategic. They want the media cycle to move on. They want you to forget. They're hoping this gets buried under the next distraction. But we're not letting that happen. Step 2, the legal fallout begins. Behind the scenes, legal experts are weighing in, and the opinions are divided. Some argue that Milley may have technically violated federal law, particularly 18 U.S. Code Section 794, which prohibits the transmission of national defense information to foreign powers. Others point to Article 94 of the UCMJ, which covers mutiny and sedition, and Article 88, which prohibits contempt toward officials. Still others warn that it's a gray area, since Milley's defenders argue he was trying to prevent catastrophe, not cause one. But Karoline refuses to accept legal excuses. Her stance is simple. Intent does not erase betrayal. If I rob a bank but say I did it to protect my neighborhood, I still go to jail. Step 3, the public awakens. Beyond Washington, something even more powerful is happening. The American public is waking up. Thousands of veterans have spoken out. Military families are demanding answers. And across the country, average citizens are asking hard questions about who really holds power in America. At town halls, radio stations, churches, college campuses, and coffee shops, people are talking. They're realizing that if one man, one unelected general, can make secret promises to a foreign power without oversight or approval, then the entire system is broken. Karoline says this moment is bigger than politics. This is not about Democrat or Republican. This is about right and wrong, about the rule of law, about the Constitution, and about what kind of country we're going to leave to our children. Her voice is sparking a wave of grassroots energy. Supporters are organizing online, sharing the memo, holding local forums, and flooding congressional offices with phone calls and petitions. The pressure is growing, and it's not stopping. Karoline's final message: the Republic is at risk. In a deeply emotional final message at the end of her national town hall livestream, Karoline looked directly into the camera and said, "We are standing at the edge of a dangerous cliff. If we allow this moment to pass without consequences, we are surrendering the very idea of America. We are saying the Constitution no longer matters, that unelected power is acceptable, that betrayal, as long as it's hidden well enough, will be ignored." She paused, then delivered her warning. This is bigger than Milley. It's about every official who believes they can operate in the shadows. It's about every agency that hides the truth. It's about a system that thinks we the people don't deserve to know who's really in charge. And finally, she gave this call to action. If you care about your country, speak up, share this story, demand investigations, demand answers. We don't need to storm any buildings. We just need to shine a light, because the truth is powerful. And right now, the truth is on our side. What comes next? No one knows exactly what's coming next. But one thing is certain, Karoline isn't backing down. The pressure on Washington is mounting. The truth has been exposed. And now, every lawmaker, military leader, and media outlet has to answer a single question. Did you protect the Constitution? Or did you protect a cover-up? Karoline Leavitt has drawn the line. And now it's up to the rest of America to decide where they stand. As soon as Karoline Leavitt dropped the bombshell about General Milley's secret memo, America exploded with reaction. The leak didn't just spark debate. It ignited a political wildfire, tearing open deep divisions across the country. The memo's contents were shocking enough. But it was Karoline's bold, unapologetic response that forced the entire nation to choose a side. And make no mistake, sides are being drawn fast. On the right, outrage, betrayal, and a demand for action. Within hours of the leak, conservative voices across the country lit up the airwaves. Veterans, lawmakers, military analysts, and constitutional scholars took to cable news and social media platforms like X and Rumble, echoing Karoline's core message. This wasn't a mistake. It was a deliberate act that threatened national security. Prominent Republicans like Senator Josh Hawley, Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, and Senator Rand Paul demanded immediate investigations. Some even floated the word treason, arguing that Milley's actions may have crossed a dangerous constitutional line. If a general promises to warn a foreign power about our movements, that's not diplomacy. It's disloyalty, said Senator Hawley in a fiery Senate floor speech. That's not protecting America. That's betraying the very oath he swore. Veteran groups began releasing public statements, some calling for Milley to be stripped of his military honors, and even court-martialed if an investigation confirms the facts. Social media was a storm. Hashtags like hashtag Milley Memo, hashtag Karoline Exposes Truth, and hashtag Defend the Constitution quickly trended on X and Truth Social. Conservative influencers began dropping reaction videos breaking down every sentence of the memo. TikTok clips of Karoline reading the memo with passion and disbelief racked up millions of views in under 24 hours. People weren't just upset. They felt betrayed by the very people entrusted with guarding the Republic. On the left, defense, denial, and downplaying the leak. But while the right was demanding accountability, the left circled the wagons. Liberal commentators and mainstream media outlets quickly jumped into damage control. CNN ran with the headline, "Milley's actions may have prevented chaos, experts say." MSNBC brought on retired generals and former Obama staffers who claimed that Milley was just doing his job, trying to maintain peace during a fragile moment. Some even went further, accusing Karoline of grandstanding, pushing conspiracy theories, and trying to rewrite history for political gain. "Let's be clear," said one MSNBC analyst. This was a responsible military leader, ensuring there were no misunderstandings that could lead to war. Milley didn't act unilaterally. He acted to protect the world. That narrative infuriated many Americans watching from the sidelines. Because if Milley didn't act unilaterally, as they claimed, why wasn't the president informed? Why weren't there official records shared with Congress before now? Why was the memo buried? Karoline responded on her live stream that night. "They can call me names. They can dismiss me. But they cannot explain away that memo. The facts are right there in black and white. Everyday Americans are waking up. But this isn't just a war between politicians and media networks. It's hitting home. Across small towns and big cities, Americans are talking at kitchen tables, in barbershops, on job sites, and in classrooms. Veterans are furious. Parents are uneasy. Young voters are asking, who really runs this country? Call-in radio shows across the country lit up with people expressing shock, frustration, and disbelief. If Milley went rogue, what's stopping the next general from doing something even worse? Is this the kind of shadow government we've been warned about for years? If this happened under Trump, what else are they hiding now under Biden? In red states, Karoline is being hailed as a hero, someone brave enough to speak truth to unchecked power. In blue states, she's being dismissed as a fringe voice. But even there, the story is leaking through the cracks. A college student in Chicago posted, "I don't agree with Karoline politically, but if that memo is real, it's scary. Generals shouldn't have that kind of power. Ever. The divide is growing, and so is a firestorm. Karoline's revelations have become a defining moment, forcing Americans to confront something uncomfortable. What happens when people inside our government believe they're above the law? This isn't just about one general. It's about a system that allowed it to happen and tried to keep it buried. Karoline is calling for a full, televised congressional hearing. She wants every official involved subpoenaed. She wants the American people to see the truth live, not filtered through spin or opinion. The moment you allow unelected officials to make foreign policy decisions in the dark, you've lost the republic. I won't let that happen. The pressure is mounting. Washington is under pressure like never before. Lawmakers are being flooded with calls and emails. Journalists are scrambling to confirm the next leak. Milley himself has yet to make a full public statement. But one thing is clear. This isn't going away. Karoline has forced a reckoning, and now the country is watching. Because whether you're on the left, the right, or somewhere in between, one thing unites all Americans. The truth matters. And now that it's out, there's no going back. It's the document that's now shaking the foundations of the Pentagon. The secret Milley memo that Karoline Leavitt exposed. Until now, most Americans had only heard whispers, vague reports, denials, distractions. But now, the contents of this classified document are being ripped into the light. And what it reveals is more shocking than anyone imagined. So what does the memo say? According to verified excerpts leaked by a whistleblower and publicly cited by Karoline, the memo documents a phone call made by General Mark Milley, the highest-ranking military officer in the country, on October 30th, 2020, and again on January 8th, 2021. In both calls, Milley spoke directly to General Li Zuoqing, his Chinese counterpart in the People's Liberation Army. Now, let's pause right there. These weren't simple diplomatic check-ins. These weren't official, transparent communications authorized by the commander-in-chief. These were private, unsanctioned conversations. And according to the memo, Milley took it upon himself to assure China the following. Generally, you and I have known each other for now 5 years. If we're going to attack, I'm going to call you ahead of time. It's not going to be a surprise. Read that again. If we're going to attack, I'm going to call you ahead of time. Karoline's reaction? Outrage. This isn't diplomacy. This is betrayal. Milley offered a tip off a hostile foreign government about our potential military actions. That's not his role. That's the president's authority. And Milley knew that, but he did it anyway. The memo doesn't stop there. It also confirms Milley told Chinese leadership that the United States was stable and that there would be no surprises under his watch, even as the White House, at that time under President Trump, was still fully operational and in command. Critics, including Karoline, say this sounds less like assurance and more like Milley positioning himself as a de facto leader of the armed forces, bypassing the elected president of the United States. So why is this so explosive? Because it shatters the very foundation of American military protocol. The U.S. military is built on a sacred chain of command. At the top of that chain is the president, who serves as the commander-in-chief. Generals do not get to make foreign policy. They do not get to decide when and how the country goes to war. And they certainly do not get to assure adversaries of forewarning in the event of an American strike. But according to Karoline and the memo, Milley did just that. And now the legal questions are flying. Did Milley violate the Uniform Code of Military Justice? Did he breach national security protocol? Could this even be interpreted as treason under Article 3 of the Constitution? Karoline's team is calling for a full investigation. She's demanding that every communication Milley made with foreign leaders be released, along with transcripts, call logs, and emails. The American people deserve to know what else was said, who else knew, and why this wasn't stopped, she said in a recent broadcast. Because if Milley acted alone, that's dangerous. But if others in the Pentagon helped cover it up, that's even worse. But Milley's defenders, including some former Obama-era officials, are trying to spin the story. They claim Milley was trying to avoid miscalculation, that tensions were high, that China may have feared a surprise attack, and Milley was simply trying to cool things down. Karoline isn't buying it. Cooling tensions doesn't mean betraying your own government, she argued. If Milley thought Trump was unstable, he should have resigned, gone public, raised the alarm legally, not whispered reassurances to communist generals. And here's what's chilling. What if China had interpreted Milley's call the wrong way? What if they believed it meant America was weak? What if it made them think they had an opportunity to strike while our leadership was divided? What if our allies began to lose trust in the reliability of a U.S. military because they feared rogue generals were acting without presidential consent? These aren't hypotheticals anymore. These are real risks, and Karoline is warning that the damage may have already been done. We don't know how far this went. But if Milley was willing to say that to China, who else was he talking to? Russia? Iran? North Korea? That's why she's calling for a public hearing, full transparency, and legal accountability. Because if the memo is accurate, and so far, no one has denied its contents, then the country just witnessed a massive breach of trust at the top of its military command. Karoline's message is clear. This can't just be a headline for a week. This is a defining moment for our republic. If we don't stand up now, we send a message to every future general that secret diplomacy is okay, and that's a path straight to tyranny. She's young. She's fierce. She's unapologetically America first. But how did Karoline Leavitt go from working behind the scenes to being the loudest voice demanding answers from the Pentagon? That's the story America is now waking up to. At just 27 years old, Karoline Leavitt has already done what few in Washington can claim. She's captured the nation's attention and refused to let go. She's not a career politician. She's not a D.C. insider. And that's exactly why her voice is cutting through the noise. But before we dive into the controversy, let's talk about who she is. Karoline was born and raised in a small town in New Hampshire, far from the marble halls of power. But even as a teenager, she was drawn to the American story: freedom, faith, family, and the Constitution. She studied politics, earned her degree, and soon found herself working in the Trump White House, serving as assistant press secretary. There, she learned firsthand how politics works behind closed doors, and more importantly, what's wrong with the system. She saw the double standards. She saw how unelected bureaucrats often pulled the strings. And she saw how powerful people inside the government believed they could override the will of the voters. And that, Karoline says, is what made her speak out now. I didn't come to Washington to stay silent while unelected generals make secret phone calls to foreign adversaries, she said recently in a live broadcast. I came to fight for the American people, and I won't stop until there's accountability. When news of the Milley memo broke, Karoline didn't wait for permission. She went straight to social media, straight to the airwaves, and straight to the American public. And what she revealed struck a nerve. With millions watching, she outlined her case. A secret memo by Milley confirming backdoor communication with China. No authorization from President Trump. No congressional oversight. And a promise. Yes, a promise to allure a foreign power if the U.S. planned to strike. Karoline's words were sharp and focused. General Milley didn't just cross a line. He obliterated it. He acted like he was president. That's not courage. That's insubordination. Now here's the thing. Karoline isn't just angry. She's strategic. She's building a movement, and it's growing fast. Over the last 48 hours, her expose has been viewed over 20 million times across platforms, including X, formerly Twitter, Rumble, Instagram, and YouTube. Her supporters range from average Americans to elected officials, veterans, and even some former intelligence operatives who now say the memo raises serious constitutional questions. But who's pushing back? Mainstream media outlets were quick to label her accusation conspiratorial or out of context. Some said Milley was acting out of an abundance of caution during a tense transition of power. Others tried to paint Karoline as a political opportunist. But she's having none of it. When the elites are nervous, they try to discredit the truth-tellers. But guess what? I have the memo. I have the proof. And I have the people behind me. That last part is key, the people behind me. Because unlike many of her critics, Karoline isn't funded by global think tanks or billionaire donors. She's supported by grassroots Americans who are tired of seeing the Constitution trampled. She's also unafraid to name names. She's directly called on President Biden to answer. Did he know about Milley's actions? Has he seen the memo? And if so, why hasn't there been any accountability? She's called on Congress to launch a full investigation, release transcripts of any foreign military calls Milley made, and strip him of any security clearances if found guilty of wrongdoing. And while critics may try to shout her down, Karoline is only getting louder. Because to her, this isn't just about one memo. It's about the future of American leadership. She argues that if military generals can operate in the shadows, make secret promises to foreign nations, and override elected leaders, then democracy is already broken. This is about restoring balance, restoring accountability, and restoring trust in the very institutions that were designed to serve us, not rule us. And she's not alone. Her call has now triggered a wave of responses from conservative leaders across the country. Some GOP members are now preparing letters demanding a House Intelligence Committee hearing. Others are asking for Milley to testify publicly, under oath. And patriotic Americans are flooding Congress with emails and phone calls, asking the same question Karoline first asked. Who's really in charge, and how deep does the betrayal go? Karoline Leavitt is no longer just a name on the screen. She's become a symbol of defiant truth in an era of silence. And if she has her way, this memo won't be buried like others in the past. Because, as she told her audience at the close of her last live stream, if we don't stand up now, we may never get another chance. Our freedom depends on it. Imagine a top U.S. general secretly calling China, behind the president's back. What if that call risked national security, and no one was supposed to know until now? Karoline Leavitt just blew the lid off a classified memo involving General Mark Milley, and what she reveals could shake the Pentagon to its core. Stay tuned. This is the story they didn't want you to hear. What if the top general in America made a secret move behind the president's back, and no one found out until now? That's the question shaking Washington to its core. The firestorm started when Karoline Leavitt, a bold political voice and rising conservative star, stepped in front of the cameras and held nothing back. With the American flag behind her and truth on her lips, she dropped what some are calling the biggest bombshell in military politics since Watergate. Karoline exposed a classified memo allegedly authored by General Mark Milley, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff at the time. The memo wasn't just bureaucratic chatter. It reportedly documented a secret, unauthorized communication between Milley and his Chinese counterpart. Yes, you heard that right. A secret call to China, made without the knowledge or approval of the sitting U.S. president. Karoline didn't mince her words. In a fiery statement, she accused Milley of undermining the office of the president, abusing military authority, and engaging in actions that she claimed bordered on treason. This memo is not just troubling, it's a betrayal, she said. At a time when America was in political turmoil, our top general was making private promises to a foreign power. The memo reportedly refers to a phone call Milley made to General Li Zuocheng of the People's Liberation Army. The context? The final days of the Trump administration. January 2021. A time marked by political unrest, the Capitol protests, and deep media-driven fears about instability in the U.S. government. In the call, Milley allegedly reassured the Chinese general that the U.S. would not initiate any military action, and that if there was going to be an attack, he would personally alert China in advance. Let that sink in. The man entrusted to protect the United States was allegedly telling a foreign military adversary that he would warn them if America was going to strike. And this wasn't shared with the president, Congress, or the American people. This was done in secret. To Karoline and millions of concerned Americans, this wasn't about diplomacy or leadership. It was about disloyalty. No general, no matter how high-ranking, has the right to override the commander-in-chief, Karoline said. Milley took it upon himself to act as if he were in charge of the entire nation's defense strategy, and that's unacceptable. In her view, this wasn't just overreach. It was an act of shadow governance, where unelected officials make decisions without oversight, transparency, or accountability. Karoline didn't just stop at exposing the memo. She demanded answers. She demanded investigations. And more than anything, She demanded that the American people wake up, because, as she explained, this memo wasn't just a footnote in history. It was a glaring symbol of a government growing out of touch with the very Constitution it was built upon. The document was reportedly buried within internal Pentagon files, only coming to light through a whistleblower who feared it would never see the light of day. That whistleblower, whose identity is being protected, leaked the information to a media outlet that Karoline quickly amplified across her own platform. It's now all over social media. Screenshots, quotes, video clips of Karoline reading lines from a memo with emotion and outrage in her voice. It's gone viral, and for good reason. Americans are tired of secrecy, tired of watching officials behind closed doors make decisions that impact global diplomacy, military readiness, and national pride. And in Karoline's words, this was the final straw. This is not how a constitutional republic is supposed to operate. If Milley had concerns, he should have gone to Congress. He should have gone to President. Instead, he went behind our backs to the Chinese Communist Party. That's not courage. That's cowardice. Supporters of Milley claim that the general was trying to de-escalate a dangerous moment and maintain global stability. But Karoline sees it differently. She argues that if Milley truly believed the president posed a threat, then he should have resigned and gone public, not operated in the shadows. The implications are staggering. What if this call had been misinterpreted by China? What if it had signaled U.S. weakness? What if it had provoked retaliation? What if a foreign nation saw the internal disarray of the U.S. military as an opportunity to strike? Karoline insists that the American people deserve better, and they deserve the truth. This is no longer about politics. It's about principle, and the principle is simple. No one, not even a general, can be above the Constitution. The storm is just beginning to form, and Karoline Leavitt is leading the charge. With bold conviction, she's drawing a line in the sand. We must defend the chain of command, or we risk losing control of our republic forever. Stay tuned, because what happens next could reshape the future of American leadership and military trust.